Kelly Reilly said the crossover between Dutton Ranch and Marshals hasn't really been discussed. She said that to People magazine in May. Then the same show's finales aired. Both sons ended up kidnapped in Texas. And when TV Insider asked her if the parallel endings were planned, she smiled and said maybe. Then she said, "Go find our sons." Which version is true? Was the crossover not discussed at all? Or was she just not cleared to confirm what had already been figured out? And what exactly happened between May and July that changed the answer from, "It hasn't really been discussed," to a smile in 3 words? Let's break it down. Before we get into it, if you're new to the channel, I'd really appreciate it if you'd consider subscribing. We cover every development across the Yellowstone franchise the moment it happens, and this particular contradiction is the most revealing thing the crossover conversation has produced. Okay, let's start with the timeline, because both statements are real, both are sourced, and both need to be understood in the context of when exactly they were made. In May 2026, Dutton Ranch was preparing to premiere on Paramount+. Marshals had been airing on CBS since March 1st but hadn't yet reached its finale. Dutton Ranch hadn't aired a single episode. At some point during the pre-premiere press cycle for Dutton Ranch, Reilly spoke with People magazine and was asked about the potential crossover with Marshals. She said she was proud of Luke Grimes, that she loves him and misses him. She said she wished they had a crossover. She said maybe they will in the future. And Yahoo, summarizing the People interview, framed it directly. Reilly said the idea hasn't really been discussed. That's the first statement. The context: pre-premiere. Neither finale had aired. Both shows were still running separately with no public confirmation of where either season was going to end. The crossover at that point was entirely theoretical. A fan wish. A PR question about whether 2 sibling characters on 2 different networks might meet. Now here's the second statement. July 2026. Both finales have aired. Marshals Season 1 ended with Tate on a private plane to Texas with Tom Weaver. Dutton Ranch Season 1 ended with Carter kidnapped by Mariano Reyes in South Texas. 2 sons. Same state, same week. TV Insider sat down with Reilly and Hauser and asked the most direct version of the crossover question yet. Was this coincidence or was it coordinated? Reilly smiled. She said maybe. Then she said, "Go find our sons." Same person, same general topic. 2 completely different answers, separated by exactly 75 days. Here's what changed. In May, the crossover was a hypothetical, a thing that could happen someday if both shows survived their first seasons and the franchise decided it was worth attempting. The question was essentially, have you and Luke had any conversations about doing a scene together? The answer to that specific question was apparently no. Not discussed. In July, the crossover was no longer hypothetical. It was cartographic. 2 sons were literally in the same state, in the custody of 2 different villains with their respective parents preparing to come after them. The question in July wasn't, would you like to do a crossover someday? The question was, did you plan the endings to create this? Those are fundamentally different questions. And the answers being different doesn't mean Reilly was being dishonest in May. It means the situation on the ground had changed completely by July. Here's where the director adds the third piece to this puzzle. Yaitanes directed episodes of both Marshals and Dutton Ranch. He was asked about the crossover possibility before either show premiered and gave the most specific creative answer anyone involved has offered. He said he thought the crossover made much more sense with Kayce going to Dutton Ranch than with Beth going to Marshals. He said Kayce would just naturally fold into Dutton Ranch because of the tonal similarity to the original show. He said he wasn't sure Beth coming into the Marshals procedural framework would fit as well. And then he said specifically that the idea of Kayce going to Dutton Ranch was something he would lose his mind over as a fan. That's a director who worked on both productions describing a specific crossover direction as his personal preference and saying he'd be thrilled to see it happen. He didn't say it hadn't been discussed. He didn't say it was definitely coming. He said it would be something he'd lose his mind over. That's the kind of answer you give when you've thought about it enough to have a preference, but you haven't been cleared to confirm anything. Here's the rehook, because the most important thing about the gap between Reilly's May statement and her July statement is what it reveals about how these conversations actually work in franchise television. In May, The crossover was a question about interpersonal relationships. Do you and Luke talk about doing scenes together? The honest answer to that specific question appears to have been no. Not formally. Not in any way that constituted a creative plan. In July, the crossover was a question about whether two finales that both ended with Sons in Texas on the same franchise were coordinated by someone at the studio level. A smile and maybe is the only honest answer to that version of the question. When you don't have explicit permission to confirm or deny a franchise-level decision that involves two different networks and two separate production companies. Go find our sons is what you say when the answer to the coordination question is obviously yes, but you can't say so out loud. And Hauser, who laughed and changed the subject when the question was asked, confirmed the same thing by not saying anything at all. Marshals showrunner Spencer Hudnut told Entertainment Weekly that both shows are forging their own paths right now. And then immediately said that if Kayce, Rip, and Beth reunited at some point, he's sure everyone would like it. Down the road. Those three words again. Everyone in a position to know is pointing at the same future tense. Not this season. Down the road, which means the crossover is real. It's coming. And the reason neither Reilly nor anyone else is confirming it yet is that the announcement is being held until the production alignment between CBS's fall 2026 Marshals season and Dutton Ranch's 2027 production schedule is locked enough to announce without creating expectations that can't be met. So here's what we know about the timeline. Marshals Season 2 premieres on CBS this fall 2026 with 18 to 20 episodes. Dutton Ranch Season 2 begins production in early 2027. Reilly told People in May that the crossover hadn't been discussed. She told TV Insider in July, maybe. And then she said, go find our sons. Those aren't contradictions. They're the same story told from two different points in time, before the finales and after them. And together they tell you exactly where this is heading. So tell me what you think. Did the Dutton Ranch finale change the crossover from a hypothetical to an inevitability? Or was the plan always to end both seasons in Texas? And which answer do you actually believe? Drop your read in the comments. I want to hear which version of the story you think is true. And if you want every update the moment the crossover is officially announced, go ahead and subscribe. I'd really appreciate having you here for it. See you when the announcement finally comes.